so interesting that most of the time, the things that you think are going to make you successful are not actually the things that you look back on once you become successful. And from my 16 years of trading, entrepreneurship, business, life, and I've lived a very, very chaotic life. I've not lived your typical upbringing. I know pretty much 95% of the issues that you've gone through. And I've probably lived a very similar life. Someone who's from a council estate, someone who hasn't had any handouts. I know what it feels like to not always have the support that you need or the belief that you don't think you're gonna make it out. But as I sat there, because a lot of traders recently asked me, what are the key things that you broke through? And I sat there and I started to actually write it down. What are the things that I value now that I was doing consistently that I don't think I valued enough? And it's only when you've become successful and you look back on it, you realize, wow, that was actually part of the key thing. So I thought what I'll do is I'll share it with you in hope that it gives you an advantage. So let's get into that. So this first one's an interesting one. This is actually my very first journal. Very first journal. When I look through this journal and realize 2012, like my first solid, I take serious journal. The 5th of the 5th, 2012, the goals that I wrote down then. Audi A3, 2-litre TDI, learn how to play guitar, £10,000 in the bank, buy my mum and dad their dream home, you name it, right? This was the first time I started writing things out in the right way. But what I did realize that I'd done intuitively is delayed gratification. And what I mean by that is once I got into a position where I could afford something and get something, I didn't just quickly go and get it. I didn't realize how important that was at the time. And I think what I must have intuitively understood was just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Just because you have a fast car doesn't mean you should drive it fast all the time. Just because you have money doesn't mean you need to spend it. And I realized when I achieved financial goals, as is I've got the money now, everything I worked for, I don't need to just go and spend it. And I would delay that gratification for a minimum of 3 months. So let's say, for example, I wanted a car and I got in a position where I can get the car. I wouldn't just go out, order it, buy it straight away. I would realize, right, I'm in a position to do it. I can do it now. Let me wait. And I would notice that within that 3-month period, and this is why it was the hack, if it's still important to me after 3 months and all the time, I can still afford it, I can still buy it, so I'm not restricted by anything. I'm actually creating the restriction myself by delaying the gratification. If I still want it enough, then the impulsiveness or the emotions, they won't wear off. And if they're still there within 3 months, guess what? It's probably as important to me as what I thought. But sometimes just being in the position to afford something is enough confidence to realize the thing that you wanted might have been something that you feel insecure about. So you think that by getting the car, getting the watch, getting the house, getting that jacket, whatever it is, or ring, you name it, that's gonna fix the issue. And you realize it was just a mask. It was just a mask for an insecurity that you have deep inside of you. But once you actually make the money, you'll find a lot of the time, oh, hold on a minute, that's not as actually important to me as what I thought. And I thought by getting the money and being in a position to get this thing, it was gonna fix all my issues. But the reality is, I've got some inner work to do. The next one that I think I didn't realize at the time how valuable it was, and I've still done till this day, I've got my original journal here, 5 daily goals. But more importantly, it's not the fact that I ticked off 5 daily goals. That's just, consistency over a long period of time. I advise everybody to do that. It was, I set my goals the night before. Why is that part important? Is that when I sit there and think about all the biggest goals I've achieved, nothing has been reactive. Nothing has been by chance. So imagine you take the same process and go, right, 2 people for over 10 years have ticked off 5 daily goals. Yeah, but how and when? One person has set their goals on the day and another person has set their goals the night before. Who's more reactive? You can't tell me the person on the day that is equally still ticking off 5 goals is more planned than the person the night before that is really thinking about what have I got to do for the day ahead. Just simple organization. Honestly, I think it's a success trait that a lot of people undervalue. I undervalued it and didn't realize. I just thought everybody does this. Surely, when I was doing it, I thought, why would people be that unorganized? And over the years, I come to realize people are. They're all over the place and they wonder why they've not got a clear plan for their life. And then they wonder why they don't achieve things. So something I didn't value as much as I value now, having achieved everything I ever wanted, it was simple things like that. I can go back through, a mountain of journals and just see daily goals, every single day, daily goals, how could you not achieve something when you stick to something so simple like that? And it wasn't tick box exercises. I always made sure within the 5, there would always be 3 things that were like core, as in, if I do these 3 things today, as long as I tick them off, I know I'm going to be at least moving forward, like I'm moving the needle in the right direction, and then everything else is just on top. And I wouldn't just stop at 5, of course, but that was at a core of what I did. I think that's given me a massive advantage over the years, especially when you consider, I actually think one of the reasons why people don't succeed is because of that. People sit there and think that it's just about trading strategy. And just because I say that, that triggers people, because they think, oh, you're just going to say it's, you know, about mindset as well. Of course it is, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the reality of you're a human, so you probably have a family, and there's a high chance that you get in a relationship. So there's a high chance you have a lot of friction, and there's a high chance you're constantly explaining yourself to either your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. And you spend so much time and energy in trying to convince them why you're doing what you're doing. And because you're not unapologetically yourself, you exhibit so much energy that's wasted on time that you could have spent just focusing on yourself versus always trying to be understood, always trying to convince them, oh, I'm doing this because of this, just shut up and get on with it. Like sometimes you just have to just get on with it versus spending so much time trying to convince everybody else why you should win. A lot of the times, you're not trying to convince them, you're trying to convince yourself. You're trying to justify to yourself why you're putting in all the hours, why you're doing what you're doing. So deep down, some of you probably don't even believe in yourself. So then you think, right, if I can get other people on board with it and they will understand my vision, they will understand what I'm doing, that will then give me the belief. Like, no, you have to be the one. And sometimes you're the only individual. I was the only individual that could see the vision. So only when you start to see results, you then see other people on board with it. And just because people are not initially on board with it, just because your family are not head over heels going, wow, I can't wait for you to be a 7-figure trader. I've always seen you as someone who could be capable of being a 6-figure funded trader. Like, they don't know this stuff, you know? You can't put those random expectations on people. But it doesn't mean because they're not on board, they don't support you. Some of you genuinely might have situations where you don't have the support and you really feel the pushback. I get that. I've coached thousands of people in that situation. But a lot of the times, you take it personally because they're not head over heels. That's just because they fear what they don't understand in the first place. So one of the things I think has helped me massively, and I didn't even realize it, is that I spent no time trying to prove to people, this is why I'm doing this. I spent no time, even to my friends, trying to say, oh, this is why I'm doing this and this is why I can't come out. No, I just done what I knew I needed to do because I believed in myself. And I think a lot of you lack that belief, and that is what holds you back. Not strategy, not having the holy grail, is because fundamentally, if you take an individual that has a good trading strategy, but they just lack belief, or they lack the tools to work on building belief, that's a good thing. I'm from a council estate, so you can't pull the wool over my eyes saying that, oh, but you had the mindset. No, I didn't. I had the exact same thing as you, where we barely have enough money for food. Without being dramatic, I remember the times where my mum had to put food back because we were poor. I know what that feels like. So you can't say to me, but you had this money. No, I had nothing. Nothing. I worked a job, saved up money, and invested into a course to learn how to trade exactly how you're doing. And at the time, I didn't think it was important because the investments weren't that much. As in, I didn't realize at the time I was building the habit of a successful individual. But because the monetary amount wasn't a lot, I didn't see it as that important. It's only now, because I've built such a really good habit over the years, that I'm doing so well because I made those habits a long time ago. You don't build habits when you become successful. You build successful habits. That's it. So you put these things in place on a small scale. So once you're in a position and you have more money, you'll do the same thing. I'll give you an example. I'm really big on ratios. So making sure that, let's say 100, we'll just use simple math. Let's say £100 comes in, £20 of that 100 should be invested. So if you just take that ratio, and 20% does not exist to you. So if you saw your money like that, you would see it differently. But what do poor people do? Poor people see, I've earned £100, and they think about how they can spend the £100. And I think what helped me is that because I came from nothing and I understood what it felt like to have nothing, you would actually feel happy with just a bit more. So it almost gave me a bit of an advantage if I think about it. Like, one example I can give you is we didn't have takeaways because that wasn't a thing. Takeaways are something that, you know, your mum makes for you. That's it. So you don't go takeaway pizza. No, my version of a takeaway pizza was you have to make it at home, and then that becomes the thing. So, oh, we're having a takeaway. Like, technically, no, we're actually having just a homemade cooking. But you convince yourself, you know, you put it on the tray, maybe you get a little packet and you make your own chips, you fry them off. And I remember those days, and I would have almost like pizza and chips and think, yeah, I'm having a takeaway. No, we just couldn't afford to have a real takeaway. But the reason why I'm telling you this is you appreciate just that little bit more upgrade of life, that when you can actually afford a real takeaway that you want, you're happy with that. So you don't go crazy and start spending all your money because you realize, no, 20%, that gets invested, versus someone who has no control whatsoever. They get £100, £80 of that goes out straight away on stuff that they don't even need, probably to impress people that they don't even know. And that happens again and again. They wonder why they have money problems. So that was definitely a huge advantage to me, building really good habits of just investing, being comfortable investing into myself, right? That was a huge one as well. And I think that earlier habit, even like in my paper round days, gave me a really good head on my shoulders that when I did save up money from my engineering job that I eventually got made redundant from, I wasn't sitting there questioning, oh, should I invest into trading? You know, oh, can I afford to do this? No, I was like, I'm all in. I back myself. I'm going to put some time in. And what else am I going to do with the money? Like 4 or 5K sitting in the bank. Yes, it was all the money I had, but what's it going to do? It's not going to make me rich. So, you know, you invest into things that you see value in, right? If you don't value yourself, you won't invest into yourself. You invest into a stock that you see value in, don't you? You invest into a crypto that you see value in. You invest into a company that you see value in. Yet when someone says, no, invest into you, make yourself the asset, you go, oh, I'm not too sure about that. Yes, because you only invest into things that you seek value in. And if you fundamentally don't see value in yourself, you won't put money into yourself. I really want you to let that sink in and think about all the times you've procrastinated and not invested into you. And you could be a more valuable asset right now, making more money. Best investment you can make is in leveling yourself up. Don't wait for external things to make you rich.